I'm a very anxious person, the kind of person who is the living embodiment of Murphy's Law, and I am terrified by every little thing. I hate the dark, crowds scare me, strangers are my worst enemy, and the list just keeps going on. What makes all of this worse is that I have a history of night terrors, starting when I was really little. I guess it didn't help that my family made fun of me for my little nightmares and would absolutely encourage my worst fears to come to life, often just by poking at me or standing in my room while I tried to fall asleep. Just like my general fears, I have a list of reoccurring night terrors. One of the terrors that started when I was young and just expanded to my adulthood is that of a tall, headless man that would stand over me while I slept. He's the reason why I can't sleep facing the edge of my bed. There was also a small child that joined the tall man for a while, but that was the result of my mum thinking it was funny to stand over me while I slept. She stopped when I yelled at her, and soon after the child left, leaving only the man. Then I have the usual Hispanic fears, like the ojo, which occasionally floats around my room, and the hairy hand, which got worse when I outgrew my bed and I had to sleep with my feet almost dangling off the edge of my bed. One that I thought had disappeared was the man who hung from a noose outside my bedroom window, and I was so goddamn sure he was gone because I moved from my parents' house to my own. I thought the only terror that had stuck with me was the tall, headless man who I saw regularly, almost like that old high school friend that no one likes. But 2 nights ago, I heard something moving around outside my window. I was trying to fall asleep to a podcast, one that always helps me go to sleep and not focus on all the creaks and groans that could be my house, but could also be my brain churning out some new horror. I tried to not think too much about the noise, telling myself that it was probably just a stir-crazy neighbour that wasn't handling the quarantine very well. However, just to make sure I didn't see my old hanging friend, I flipped over and risked seeing the tall man for the first time in a few days. Luckily, the podcast put me to sleep in record time. Last night, the noises came back, and I jumped awake. It sounded like shuffling footsteps, like someone was looking for something. I was facing the window and wanted to flip over like before, but my neck was prickling with the presence of something behind me. So I stood my ground at my window, hoping that it would be no different than before. And that's when the eye popped through the slits in my window blinds. I couldn't move, and neither did the eye. I didn't have any colour, so it couldn't have been the hanging man, who had blood-red eyes. The eye in front of me didn't move or blink. The floor creaked behind me again, causing my throat to swell up with fear, and the eye stayed steady on my face. I wanted to move, but I was just too scared to do anything. Then there was a tapping at the window, like a long fingernail tapping for attention. It just kept tapping, and the eye still didn't move. My jaw ached from how hard I'd been clenching it. And then it suddenly stopped, but a voice took its place, alternating with the tapping. I can see you. I can see you. I can see you. It never seemed to stop, and the eye never blinked. I don't remember falling asleep, but I eventually did pass out because now it's morning, and the tall man, the eye, and the tapping are all gone. My jaw and teeth are aching, and my heart has yet to settle down. I called my neighbours to ask them if they had come into my yard or if they'd seen anything that night. They all said no. I don't want to go to sleep tonight.